Welcome to Ring Talk, myself, Martin Theobald, soon to be joined by Steve Goodwin, and then we're going to roll it out into a fans forum for this session. So we're going to invite people along. We've sent out some links, we'll see who turns up, because we don't really know yet. People get the opportunity to ask their own questions, come and quiz Steve themselves, and I'm going to join in as well, because ultimately I'm just a fan. What's gone on in the week of world of boxing this week? Let's start with the headline news, I guess. Anthony Yarde lost to Lyndon Arthur. Or to put it more correctly, Lyndon Arthur beat Anthony Yarde. And I think that's probably paying respect to the fact that, same as Joe Joyce beating Daniel Dubois, let's highlight those that got the victory rather than taking away from it. So, yeah, Lyndon Arthur, which was the most bizarre fight. He only had the jab, the left hand, for the whole fight. He never... maybe on two occasions through the right hand, and he was humble enough afterwards to not allude to the fact that he damaged it, only kind of right afterwards in his IFL interview, I think, but not in a live TV interview. Very humble of him to do so. I personally scored it a draw. I don't think, Anthony Yarde was screaming robbery after the fight. I don't think you can call it a robbery. Very bizarre, I say, to win a fight with one hand and one shot only. But well done to Lyndon Arthur, who defended his Commonwealth title. Big question marks about Anthony Yarde, 29 years old now. Does he stay with Tunde? Does he leave Tunde? Where would he go? Would it benefit him ultimately? So many questions to answer around that, and probably be discussed later, I suspect. Over in America, Errol Spence returned from his horrific car crash of last year and beat Danny Garcia on points fairly comprehensively. So yeah, nothing to overly discuss around that, other than great to see him back. Great to see that he hasn't seemingly lost a step from where he was before the car crash. Also in America, Floyd Mayweather announcing that he's going to take a exhibition bout against Logan Paul or Jake Paul. I don't really know which. I think good on him, in my view. Like, I know people say, it makes it a circus. The sport's always been a circus. You go back to, Muhammad Ali was involved in a wrestling mixed martial arts style match. All the way through the eras, through the decades, there's always been an aspect of circus around it. Floyd, best of our generation. Good on him. What else can he achieve in boxing? Why would he come back to boxing? He's given his all to boxing. And now he's just using the sport to top up his pension pot. I don't have an issue with it personally. It's not going to be competitive. It's not going to be a proper fight. But I don't really care. As I say, the guy has given his all to the sport over his lifetime, through his amateur career at the Olympics and onwards into the professional career, where he did more than nearly anyone of his era generation. So to me, good luck to him. But again, let's throw it out to the fans forum later on. Before we finish up, touch on an impressive performance from Chris Bourke on the undercard of the BT show Saturday night, where he stopped Michael Ramabalatsa early. Cracking performance after coming off the Ramez Mahmood fight, which was a hard-fought points win. To stop Ramabalatsa in that manner was incredibly impressive. So well done to Chris Bourke. The rest of the undercard, Dennis McCann, tough fight for him. Did well, but didn't shine like we used to see him. But, that's reflective of a tougher opposition. So, yeah, now onwards to myself and Steve, and then let's roll it out to the fans forum. Right, there we go. Steve's fan record. We're now going. How are you?
I'm all
living in
good,
chaos like me.
Like you, we're both living in building sites as a house, but that's how it goes. It'll all be worth it in the end.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I've got the one bit that I use for my work Zoom meetings, so it looks tidy. But other than that, the house is a disaster.
Yeah, same as I'm working. At home in the middle of a building site. But yeah, we've got to be done. It'll be all worth it in the end. So you're looking forward to this weekend?
So weekend, what did you make?
Last weekend.
Yeah, this weekend I'm not too bothered about. Joshua Pulev. I actually tried to get tickets when they put them on sale, and I thought, I don't really know why.
That's why I just said that to you. I mean, we'll cover the card in a minute, but I saw you try and get. I suppose it's a unique thing to try and get a ticket for, so it's something to have.
It's exactly that. Just for the experience. I think you had to buy two, so I think I'll take my lad down. and it would be a different boxing environment to take my lad along to. Didn't get tickets, so it's irrelevant, but just for the experience and to go along and see what it would be like. But the card itself, I mean, with the Okoli fight changing and whoever they've got for him now, you know, it's all about Joshua, isn't it? But
no, I agree.
I mean, does anyone really think Pulev is a massive threat to him? I'm not convinced, but
no,
I suppose you wouldn't have been about Andy Ruiz, and that's what they sell it on now, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean they've always got that thing. No, I mean I think he beats Pulev, so I think that's about. But let's just go back. Sorry, let's go. I interrupted you. Let's go back to last week, and then we'll carry on through the card for this week. So last week.
So I hope no one took our betting tip, or not a betting tip.
Well, it wasn't. It was just about the thing with Michael Ramabalatsa. His 4-1 was too big a price. I mean, I had a few quid on him at 4-1, but Father Time catches up with you. There was two things that happened. I thought Chris Bourque had improved quite a lot from that Ramez Mahmood fight. I think the Ramez fight brought him on a ton. And secondly, I felt that Michael Ramabalatsa, he's 39 years old. Father Time has caught up with his reactions, his reflexes, and his punch resistance. And combined with the two, but that was why, you know, in these situations, they're worth a bet, because Michael Ramabalatsa 2 years ago would have really given a fight, but he's not the same. You know, you never know when a fighter's gone old, and he's just gone old. And but not taking away from Chris Bourque, I thought he looked really good in the fight, and I think he's decent. And he was definitely a lot better than he fought Ramez Mahmood. But the other thing I would say about Ramez Mahmood, I think it shows, rather than did he detract from Ramez, how close Ramez pushed him. I think there's more to it about how good Ramez can still be. I think Ramez can be a really good fighter if he picks the right fights. I don't manage Ramez. That's not my job. That's Mickey's job, who's his manager, good manager. But if they pick the right fights for Ramez, I think Ramez can still go on and be a major force. And I think that was his first big fight on TV against Bourque, and I think he can come again. And I think the way he dispatched Michael Ramabalatsa is a big endorsement to Ramez Mahmood. So I'd like to praise Bourque and Ramez, really, rather than criticise Michael. But I do think Michael, it was just a bit too late in his career for him. But he had his big chance.
Yeah, Bourque did well, and I think the big question coming out of the Ramez Mahmood fight, and I know Ramez has got an iron chin. You hear about it through, gym stories, but the one question coming out of it was, did he have the power to move on? And the fact that he dispatched Ramabalatsa with that one shot, almost, that was what caused all the damage, wasn't it? The one shot. That may not have ended the fight, but it started the end of the fight.
But I do feel, as I say before, Mike, 39 years of age, and I'm not saying this after because I backed him, but 39 years of age, he's getting old, and that's why I didn't have a big bet on him at 4-1, but I had a bet. But to me, there was always that risk of the age. As I say, I think Michael Ramabalatsa 3 years ago beats Chris Bourque, but he's not the Michael Ramabalatsa 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So moving on to the other
the
big
Josh
fight.
Kennedy, Michael Ramabalatsa.
Yeah, that Michael Ramabalatsa beats Chris Bourque, but it's not the same guy anymore. Then we had the Anthony Lyndon Arthur fight, which was the other big fight. Another
bizarre fight.
Was really weird. I don't want to jump on the bandwagon. I think Anthony Yarde, it is for Anthony Yarde though, and Josh pointed it out, it's only the second time he's really fought a live opponent in his life.
Yeah.
Behind Kovalev. And people keep going on about Kovalev, but he was losing every second of every round, apart from the round that he caught Kovalev. And everybody keeps homing in that he nearly stopped him. But he was losing the rest of the fight, both before and after. And again, there was some flaws in his technical side that were thoroughly and totally exposed by Lyndon Arthur. So I want to start off, though, by saying, well done, Lyndon Arthur. I think Lyndon Arthur put in a brilliant performance, considering he was fighting with one hand and a damaged hand. And listen, I think as far as the results concerned, it could have gone either way. I think it was hard to call. The Ian John Lewis card was ludicrous, but again, we talk about cards and it's always the same people, and much as I like Ian. But it could have gone either way. But if you are going to be world level, you get rid of Lyndon Arthur.
Yeah.
And he's not there at the moment at world level. as he is at the moment. As he is, the Anthony Yard we are watching at the moment is domestic level. That's it. That's what you have. And unless he could improve, but as he is now, but to get to the next level, you have to accept defeat. You have to analyse why you lost. You have to take responsibility within, rather than scream robbery, robbery, robbery. Because if you fail to acknowledge, then you don't proceed. There's always a saying: if you always do what you've always done, you always get what you've always got. So if he carries on believing what he's believing, he's never going any further. But Anthony Yard has the talent to go further.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. I mean, think about what Beterbiev would have done with Lyndon Arthur on Saturday night. You know,
or what Beterbiev would have done with
found
Anthony
it
Yard.
the most. Yeah. But the most worrying thing to me was it was after round when Tunde said to Anthony, I think he's fighting with one hand. Like, I was sat texting Craig Scott and Riku about it, and after 2 rounds, I said he hasn't thrown a right hand. I'm not sure what's going on, but he hasn't got a right hand on him. And then it became abundantly clear, you know, round 3, round. But why did it take a trainer 8, 9 rounds to be able to highlight that to the fighter?
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
Baffling.
Totally agree.
And why does the fighter not pick up on it themselves? I don't know. It was just a bizarre fight, but credit Lyndon Arthur. You know, I think there's been 2 weeks now. Mr. Campion.
He's joined our live broadcast. No, carry on, Martin. Carry on. He's just looking at us.
Kevin looks confused. He's like giving a sheep an iPhone.
Still on mute.
Hello.
Hello,
Mr. Campion.
Joining our live cast before we go on. We just. Did you watch the fight, Kev? The Lyndon Arthur Yard fight?
No, I didn't.
I didn't watch it.
No.
We're just debating. Yeah, how many corners have you ever worked in, Kev? 100?
How many?
100?
Yeah, a fair few.
150? Something like that.
A fair.
Because I did, that Yard wasn't told by his corner that his opponent seemed to have damaged his right hand until after. And I know you didn't watch the fight, as you've just said, but I was sat texting a couple of mates saying after 2 rounds, Lyndon Arthur hasn't got a right hand. He must have damaged it. He must have done something.
Yeah.
And yet his corner never advised him until the 8th.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't really want to criticise people and stuff like that, but that's one of the things you're trying to pick up on, looking for things like that. Considering that Arthur is known for a right hand as well, like the kid can whack a bit. You think they'd be looking at that a little bit early on. But look, I suppose in the heat of the moment, can it be missed? It shouldn't have been missed, but it clearly was in this fight, and they seem to notice it a little bit too late. So.
Yeah. I mean, would you in the corner as well perhaps be wary that he hasn't thrown it for, say, 2, 3 rounds? He might be playing possum a little bit and then draw you onto it come the 5th.
Yeah, unlikely. I think someone as dangerous as Yard, if you've got that weapon, I don't think you play possum for 2 or 3 rounds. I think it's too dangerous not to use it if you've got it. I think you'd be a very brave tactician to say to Lyndon Arthur, you know, I'll tell you what you're going to do. You're going to go in with someone as dangerous as Yard, but what you're not going to do is throw your right hand for 3 rounds. I think that's a really, I think that's a real dangerous tactic. So there's always that chance, but I think, I don't think that would be the best game plan to devise.
But it was just mad. Like, at no point was Yard stepping to his right and just cutting that ring off, and you're fighting someone who only had 1 punch.
It's there's been a lot of criticism from it afterwards, isn't there? And obviously, I ran a poll, didn't I, on my Instagram to see what interested people think. But you know, whether Yard will I don't know. Only Yard can decide that. But it seems to be a strange series of events anyway.
Yeah. What do you two make of Floyd Mayweather, Jake, or Logan Paul, whichever one he's fighting?
Next. Move on. Next.
I don't have too much Floyd Mayweather boxer, you go on the small haul and wait for their chance and never get it to be able to earn it. But at the same time, not all of them bring the same marketability that Logan Paul does. Rightly or wrongly, it's not boxing ability, but he brings fans and buys and money talks and bullshit walks, as they say.
Yeah, I don't know. You see his right hand the other week when he iced that.
Yeah, exactly.
That was Jake Paul, though, wasn't it? It's not him. It's the one that lost to KSI that's fighting him, isn't it?
Is that not who he's fighting? Oh, right.
No, he's fighting the guy that's 0-1. He's fighting the one that lost.
Oh,
he's not even fighting the one that won.
I thought it was the one that knocked out there. So I know.
No, it's not him. That's Jake.
That's how good. That's how up to speed I am in my YouTube stuff.
He ought to do them both on the same night. Make it a proper exhibition.
At the same time, he could do if he really wanted to. I'd buy that. I mean, look, I don't know. Look, it's going to get criticism. It's not great for the sport in terms of it, but I don't necessarily see it as the same as the sport. I think it's almost seen differently. But look, it's legal, I suppose. It's what can you say?
Yeah, let them do it. I'm all up for it.
As I always say,
I don't think too much.
People are foolish enough to pay for it, and people can make money from it. Crack on.
For decades, isn't it? It's it's not the first novelty act that's happened.
No, it's not. It's not great. It overshadows a little bit. Because I suppose if you're a casual, then you start to think that's what boxing is really all about. And if you're a casual, you're probably not watching. The I say it's legal. Everyone do it. I haven't really got too much to. I'm not saying it's the best of the sport, but I also.
Where's Steve going? We're getting a live talk.
Where I've been sent to, the internet connection's not stable, so I'm going back to my original place.
He's got a shirt on this evening, Mr. Goodwin.
Yeah, I mean, I have to come out. I have to come back here because that's the problem.
It's even worse now. I've lost him.
So I'm just gonna move it across. So yeah. So
I didn't realise I'd come onto your live feed. Apologies. I didn't mean to into a cannonball into your live feed.
That's all good.
So let's do with the weekend then before we kick on with our thing. So let's go. Friday night, Channel 5, Sam Eggington, Ashley Fairfane. I think that's a gimme for Eggington, isn't it?
I'd say so.
Yeah, I don't know. How's this ended up on Channel 5? Have Matchroom discarded Eggington? I don't know.
Yeah, they side with Hennessy. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
Well, John Pegg is now Hennessy's right-hand man, so you'll see that John Pegg's fighters are now featuring the Central Area title fight is John Pegg's.
I didn't know that either.
Virgo is John Pegg's. So you're seeing that a lot of John Pegg fighters now are going on Hennessy because he's put an arrangement with them. So you'll see that John Pegg fighters will appear. The other one was Shakan Pitters. He was going on it. John Pegg is working closely with Hennessy now. That's why it's going on.
Speaking of the danger man Idris Virgo, he's on there, isn't he?
Fighting Kevin McCauley, I understand.
Big fight. Big fight. Which title's that for?
It's for the Kevin McCauley. It's fighting the journeyman with one of the longest losing records. So he's trying to amass fighters with the most losses on their slate. But to be fair, he's getting away with it. He's getting paid for it. We know where we are with him. Good luck to him. Let him carry on. And at the end of the day, if he can make money out of the sport and people are going to pay for him to watch him on Channel 5, good luck to him. But he's not. He's been a bit quieter lately, hasn't he? About I think he has.
Hopefully, Kevin McCauley turns up in shape.
Yeah.
And ready to give it a go.
I'm sure every journeyman will try very hard against him. So Kevin's not a bad fighter. He could spring a surprise. Could do.
Yeah.
Kev can fight if he wants to, or depends if he wants to, isn't it?
He don't know. I've been told reliably he definitely wants to this time.
Yeah.
You're seeing Kevin McCauley having a proper go this weekend.
He can fight, Kev. He can fight.
Who else is on that card? Is it?
That's about it, really. There's a couple
No.
of there's an area tile 5 and 6 and 0. You've got Dennis Hobson should be applauded. Same night he's got that show in Sheffield, and
His car park show, isn't it?
Phil Williams is going in last minute call. He's fighting Cash Ali. Just got the call today. So Phil's going up there. He have gloves will travel. He's fighting Cash Ali. Tommy Frank's fighting Rosendo Gunaras, the guy who lost virtually every round to Sonny Edwards. It's not a great top of the bill, but listen, full credit to Dennis for doing that.
Yeah.
Full credit to him.
It's a great concept. I hope it works. It's a great concept.
It clashes at Channel 5 because that's on Eurosport. Then we go on to Saturday night.
Is it on Eurosport?
Sorry?
Is it on Eurosport?
It's on Eurosport, yeah.
Oh, right. I didn't realise they showed dogging on Eurosport. But...
Yeah, it's on Eurosport.
No, credit to Dennis Hobson for putting it on and for taking the concept. Because they did one in Germany, didn't they, a month or two back? And so, yeah, like it's brilliant that they've been able to finance it and get the clearance to put it outdoors and get the car. Fair play, I think that's brilliant.
Full credit to them. So Saturday night, we're going to briefly run through. Joshua Pulev, we've covered. I think everybody's expecting Joshua to put on a bit of a masterclass. I imagine now he won't be getting into brawls. He'll be boxing because I'd imagine he'll just try and outbox Pulev. I don't know what you think. Okoli's now just going to be fighting a world title eliminator against Nikodem Jazewski. I mean, Okoli's effective but not watchable. He's just, I got immense respect for Okoli, what he did as an amateur. I just think he's awful to watch. But in terms of talent, I hope he goes on and wins a world title. I've met him a few times. He's a nice fella.
Yeah, lovely bloke. But if those 2,000 stay to watch that fight rather than go to the bar, I'd be shocked.
Yeah, Hughie Fury, Marius Vac, both of them are the losers. Hughie Fury now, I mean, again, he's not the greatest to watch, although he's talented. Vac's coming, he's 40 years of age. I'm not sure that's going to be a great fight to watch, to say the least. I can't imagine that.
I still hold out a hope for Hughie Fury. I still think there's something there.
So do I.
All of that experience that he's amassed over the years, and he's still relatively, what is he, 24, 25?
I still think Hughie Fury could become a world champion. I still think he could. I'm just saying that he's not. I don't think that's going to be a great fight to watch. Hughie Fury against Marius Vac. I don't think it's going to be a great fight to watch. That's all. Hope I'm wrong.
I think it's my love for Peter Fury makes me want Hughie Fury.
He's a lovely man, Peter Fury. I went in his gym once when our fan was sparring Hughie. Lovely people. Really nice. Hughie and Peter, great people. The good fight would be Martin Bakoli, Sergey Kuzmin. Both of them have lost to Michael Hunter. I think it'll be a really good fight. Again, the only thing, I don't think there's any betting opportunities, by the way, this weekend, but I think that's a good fight to watch. Kieran Conway, Macaulay McGowan. Macaulay McGowan seems to me, his last fight, he went as the journeyman on an MTK show, lost virtually every round. He did draw with Jez Smith some time ago. I don't know. I mean, Conway's probably not a 12-on chance to beat McGowan. I think McGowan's got a better chance than that. But so I think we'll see. But again, the original fight for Conway, well, I thought he would have got beaten. That's obviously fallen out for the time being. I think he probably beats McGowan, but you wouldn't be backing him at 12-on. Cash Ashfaq against Ashley Lane, 1-8 Ashfaq. He should beat Ashley Lane, who's already retired earlier this year and has come back.
I had no idea that fight was happening. I thought Ashley Lane had retired years ago.
He has retired, but he's come out for the fight. So he's come out for a payday. So you'd have to say realistically that you'd have to fancy Cash Ashfaq quite confidently in that fight. And that's it. I don't know what Jamie Spate's doing on here. Hold on, I'll tell him. We'll just have to see. So that's really the card. I think we should end it there. Really, we'll pick up the Q&A bits next week, shall we?
Yeah, I was going to ask one question to you both. That, like, if you start by the premise that £25 is affordable to 95% of boxing fans.
Yeah.
if you said, look, you need to raise £25 for something, you could do it. Would you spend that £25 on Joshua Pulev and that card?
Do you know, it's different. Like I as you know, I'm an avid buyer of pay-per-views, right? I've pretty much bought all of them. For me, I like boxing. I pay for it, but I've got to admit, this is one I won't buy. It's not because of any. I've just got to a point now where it's costing so much money. It's, you know, asked to shell out time and time again for, you know, the same product. And I understand why, and I understand boxers have got to earn, and I'm not against that and everything else like that. But for the first time for me, I'm out of it. Like, it's just, you know, it keeps going up. It keeps this and that, you know. But that's just my opinion. But like I say, I've been an avid. We've had multiple things where you've all absolutely abused me in our group chat when
yes,
I've been buying pay-per-views beforehand. But this will be the first one. It's not because of Joshua. It's just with everything else considered, everything else that's gone on, with all the money it's shelled out and stuff like that, you know, and what's happened to the pandemic this year, and now it's gone up and sort of thing. It's just, for the first time for me, I'm out of it. So,
because it always amuses me when if you criticise £25 for the boxing, then you'll always get someone come back going, oh, well, if you can't afford it, that's your problem. It's like, well, it's not about being able to afford it. It's the equivalent of if someone came up to you with a Mars bar and said that's £25. Well, it's not, is it? That's not £25 worth of value. I'm not going to give you £25 for a Mars bar. And on the same premise, I don't believe Saturday night's card is worth £25.
That's
to me,
different. What's fair about that, though, is everybody has a different perception of value in life about anything, right?
Yes.
So whether it be a cup of coffee, a Costa coffee, or a normal coffee, and people will decide if it's worth. I say the same thing. I don't have any judgment. I'll just, if I think that's worth something's worth it, I pay for it. But if you don't, you don't. But I just think, yeah, that's really it. I just. To me, I don't think it is, but it's up to everybody else to decide. I think some pay-per-views are worth it, some aren't. That's it. And the same thing is going to. Not every show in London is worth going to. Not every film in the cinema is worth going to. You pick and choose. That's all.
Warren Buffett always says, "Price is what you pay, value is what you get," isn't it? So you decide what you want.
Exactly that.
So, but yeah, so for me, it's for the first time. It's just for the first time. I just think it's gone too far now for me, and that's just my opinion. So this time, I'm not willing to pay the price. So
right, we got fans on. Who we got here? We got Will Michael. How you doing, Will?
Yeah, not too bad. How you doing, pal?
All right, spoken to you many times on Twitter, never on here. So nice to meet you. And James Sunderland, similar. I've spoken to you many times.
Yeah, quite often.
Indeed. I give you some terrible betting tips at times.
No, you've given me some good ones. You've saved me from one or two. The Jason Wellborn one springs to mind. So, yeah.
And Lee, how are you, man?
I'm all right. Yourself?
Good. You're away with reliant on the hotel Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I can see that Steve's decided to get dressed up on his posh shirt out as well by the looks of it.
He might have even ironed it.
Something like that.
And then we got, for those that don't know Dave Evans, Dave Evans is the whip for Steve's shows. So he's got some brilliant stories. Some of them are boxing related.
I'm very tired tonight. I'm tired tonight.
Then we got Jamie Spate, former English title challenger, Southern Area champion, now trainer, all sorts.
Yeah, licorice all sorts, no.
Licorice all sorts, and a man who is punching so far above his own weight, it's incredible.
Dear me, I've heard it all now, Mark.
We're not talking about boxing now, are we?
No. Right. I'm going to throw out a boxing topic and you lot can discuss it, and I'm going to sit back. How many of you have paid to go to a Steve Goodwin show before? Start there.
Not me.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
yes,
I'm intrigued then. I'm intrigued.
Lee's done it. Go on, Lee.
So
Yeah,
Lee, you have. I know you have.
Nights.
Will, you're London-based, didn't you?
Yeah.
And you've never paid to go to a Steve show?
Not yet, not yet. But 2021 is a new year.
Miracles happen.
Start on
Right,
that topic.
Thanks for joining us, Will. See you. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. Yeah.
On that topic, because I know you're a massive boxing fan who goes to a lot of shows. What would be the thing that would make you go to a Goodwin boxing show? And what is it that hasn't got you there so far?
Good question. As I've said before, I'm a self-confessed casual. So
We all are.
yeah, as I tend to try and go to as many of the big fights as possible, whether it's with the mates or sometimes I drag the missus. But for me, a lot of it is time. You can't go to all of the shows, and you have to pick and choose the ones that kind of appeal to you, I suppose. That's the honest answer.
That's fair. So what could Steve do to get someone like yourself to go along to a show?
I think it's with the attention that the fighters get. Steve's got a couple of, shall we say, marquee fighters now, whether it's Linus or Dion, and it's just getting the profile out there and tapping into that casual market. So whether it's taking advantage of social media, doing Instagram live, stuff like that, I think interacting with fans is so important. And I think that's always worked well, and it's working well for some of the up and coming fighters.
So building the interest, essentially.
Oh, 100%. We live in a society where you have to capture the imagination, and if you're not doing that, you're not going to get any interest.
Yeah.
James, where are you based?
My sins, Burnley in Lancashire. So yeah, quite a trip. It would be quite a trip. So that's my get out of jail card on this one, I think. Yeah.
Do you do small hall shows up that way?
I've been to Shane Singleton's fought locally. He's not boxing anymore. I believe he was actually going to box one of Steve's fights, I think, at one point. I can never remember.
It's on the Hay. John O'Donnell on the Hay show, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. But yeah, so I've been to one of Shane's fights quite locally. He fought a guy that fought Sam Eggington, I think Leon Findlay, I think, something like, I can't remember the fella's name to be exact, but yeah, so I've been to small old shows locally when Shane's been on, but not as many as I probably should, to be fair. But yeah, no, that was a good show. I did enjoy it. It was good.
Yeah. And Lee, I think Lee's got dodgy Wi-Fi.
I have. Can you hear me?
Vaguely. What would get you, like, you go to a fair few shows, don't you, Lee? What is it that takes you or entices you to go to, say, a Goodwin one or any other small hall show?
To be honest, I think it's to do with the production that Steve's puts on. It's constantly constant, if that makes sense. You know you're going to get a good night when you're at a Steve Goodwin show.
Oh.
And 9 times out of 10, the matchups that he puts on are 50-50s. You never really know. You've got an idea, you've got an inkling, but you're guaranteed a good scrap on pretty much any of his cards.
Nice. Now I'm going to chuck it out to Dave Evans, because Dave always has some brilliant views on this.
On
what do you think, Dave? I'm going to chuck it out to you, because you have some interesting views on these things. Listening to what they say as ticket buying fans, you don't buy a ticket as such, you get paid to work there.
Mm.
What do you think Steve would have to do to start enticing the likes of Will or Lee, not James because he's up in Burnley and that's a bit of a trek? Where do you see small hall boxing growing, and what does it have to do to achieve that?
Oh, it's difficult, isn't it? Because unless they're involved in any of the fighters, they've got no reason to go, really. You know, unless they're friends with any of the fighters or unless somebody's going to sell them a ticket. So ultimately, you'd have to give them a free ticket to get them to go, because they've got no reason to go.
What, and try and entice them in as a loss leader?
Yeah. Yeah, I can't see why you would go otherwise, if I'm being brutally honest.
That's why you're the whip. That's why you're the whip, mate.
Correct. no, but you know, unless they've got a local fighter or a friend who's selling them a ticket, I can't see how you would get them to go. I just can't see a way around it.
So
Especially to travel.
we would sell, Dave, to on average between 150 and 200 tickets to the public. That's about an average for a small hall show. That's the people not associated with any particular boxer.
I guess you'd have to find out from them. You'd have to do some market research to find out from them why they're going, where they've got their tickets from.
Yeah.
And then you channel that to these people.
Yeah.
That's the only way I could think of doing it. Unless you spend a lot of money on advertising.
Yeah.
But gone are the day a poster's going to do anything locally, I would have thought.
No.
I think you need to use someone like Will as like the study group around how do you convert someone from
the
an
guinea
Anthony
pig
Joshua fan into a small hall boxing fan.
Well, I can see what he's saying though about identifying with a fighter like Linus, who has now been on Sky. So, but again, once they go on to Sky, you want them to stay away from the small hall because there's more money in it for them if they fight on the bigger cards. Like Dion Juma now fighting Billum Smith. If he beats Billum Smith, you won't see Dion Juma on a small hall show again. So that's really what happens, isn't it? They move on.
Yeah, it's a progression, natural progression, isn't it, really?
Yeah,
Let's take it from the fighter's perspective. So, Jamie, you've fought small hall coming up. You're from the backwaters of Torquay. So it's difficult. You don't get that many shows down in Torquay as you're coming through. It's starting. There's more opportunities a little bit now with Steve putting on Plymouth shows.
Yeah.
But you fought all the way up through the small halls. Then fought Josh Warrington on TV. Isaac Lowe, was that on TV?
I thought Josh was a small hall show. Josh was on Steve Wood's show in Leeds Town Hall. That was small hall, not televised. And then
was that not a TV one?
Nah. That was for the English title. It was Josh's first defence of the English. That was small hall Steve Wood show. I first boxed on TV in 2012. I boxed Nigel Wright, which I just should not have been in there. It was just a bad management decision, and I was young and unbeaten, so I'm fighting anyone. Simple as that. And then I boxed.
Jamie, was that a 10 stone?
Yeah, super lightweight. Yeah.
Yeah.
I bear in mind, Nigel. I was 8-0, and Nigel. I won my first title. I won the International Masters title at light welterweight. It was then super lightweight now, and then I got the call up 8-0 undefeated to fight Nigel Wright, and he had boxed Lenny Dawes, got a draw for the British.
Yeah, I remember.
He beat some really really good kids, but my manager at the time convinced me with you're on the up and coming, he's on the downward slope, he's had his time, you'll beat him, and I'm young and unbeaten, and I just thought, yeah, right, I'll do it. So my manager convinced me that I could do it. I went in there and I got peppered about the place for about 4 rounds. And then, to be fair, round 5, I started to have a good go. I was catching him with shots, and then he caught me with a straight backhand, and he created this fantastic piece of nose you can see stuck to the front of my face. And then I wanted to carry on, but the referee jumped in, and basically, the way I see it, I'd lost every round, so what's the point of me taking more punishment? I'm going to lose, so he just stopped me.
Yeah, no, I remember Nigel. He's a good fighter.
But yeah, no, back to the original question, Mark. I boxed Josh Warrington on the small hall. Then I boxed, I think, Isaac Lowe was Sky. Then Beast Bellotti was Sky. Joe Cordina was Sky. So yeah, I've been on Sky a few times.
But do you think that made any difference in terms of
more exposure than a lot of people?
If you go back to Will's point about making the connection for fans to boxers, do you think that would have helped you at all, having those opportunities at press conferences and build-ups to fights?
I think it does, but I think nowadays with social media, you can do all your own stuff. You can do your own press conferences. You can build yourself up. I think as well as a boxer, I'm a fan. I'm a trainer. I'm a fighter. I'm a fan. I live and breathe the sport. I love the sport, and for me, if you want to sell tickets at a small hall, it's got to be 50-50 fights, and it's hard to do. But you look at the way boxing excelled during lockdown when Eddie Earn's putting on shows, and there's none of these Eastern Europeans coming in just to take a loss. It had to be 50-50. It had to be people who are on the winning track fighting people who are winning. and it drew crowds. People wanted to tune in and watch it. And I think if you see more of this in small hall boxing, people wanting to fight winners, people wanting to be the best in their division, then you will draw crowds. People want to see that. It makes the show exciting. It puts that edge on the show, and you don't get that when you can go to most small hall shows and pretty much you can tick who's going to win right the way down the card. That's just the way it is. That's the way boxing's progressed. And I think that's the issue.
So with that perception, I'll throw it out to Will, to Lee, to James. Would that perception of a small hall show is going to be lots of one-sided against a journeyman, would that put you off going and buying a ticket to a show?
For me, yeah.
Yeah,
you want to see competitive fights, really. You want to go in there knowing that either fighter could win, and it's not a foregone conclusion. So definitely competitive fights.
But can I just?
Would you say you have a perception?
Can I just buy in 1 second? But I'm going to defend a small hall here, right? Tomorrow night on Saturday night, Okoli 1-20, Fury 1-6, Okoli 1-4, Conway 1-12, Ashfaq 1-8, Joshua 1-8. How many more one-sided fights can you get than that? You wouldn't find the top 6 fights on a Goodwin show with those sort of odds on the favourite.
Yeah, but the difference there, Steve, is that the fighters, some fans just tune in just to watch the fighters. They're at that profile, at that level, they don't care whether Joshua's fighting Fury or a Binman, really.
Totally agree. The point was, though, it's not about the one-sided stuff, because the small hall shows are generally more competitive, or our small hall shows would generally, on the whole, be more competitive than the TV shows. So what I'm saying is, that isn't the reason. I totally agree with Will, because it's about the profile of the fighters. Because you can put on some barnstormers, but it still isn't going to get people to go if they don't know who the fighters are. But it's not the one-sided stuff, because you watch a normal Matchroom or Frank Warren show, it's stacked with 1-40s, 1-50s on the undercards, isn't it? Stacked.
Yeah, no.
Stacked.
100%.
I'm going to throw out another question.
Sorry, just on that point, Steve, and you make a good one. I think, for me personally, I think there has to be more done by the fighters to promote themselves, and whether it's having links into the community where you've got a vested interest, you know that fighter, and you almost feel compelled to come along. I mean, one fight that I did go to, the only time I've ever been to York Hall was when Isaac Chamberlain fought Wadi Camacho. Yeah. And the only reason I went to that fight is because I'd go to train at the same gym in Miguel's, and got to know Isaac, and I just thought, you know what, I'm going to buy a ticket and support this fighter, support the event, and absolutely loved it. But if I didn't know him, if I didn't have that link, I would have never gone and seen such a great fight and got to experience York Hall. So I think the fighters have a responsibility to promote themselves. There's only so much the management and the promoters can do. They have to do more, in my opinion.
I wrote an entire document for Steve to give to boxers when they turn over professional about engaging with local communities before you consider, like, I'm going to get an Adidas sponsorship deal, is consider going down the local school fete or whatever and just trying to get to know 50 people from there. Exactly. To me, it makes far more sense to engage at a local level than try and go national. You know,
it's one thing I thought what boxers should do, because a lot of them, you know, pretend they support football clubs, but that's done, isn't it? But what I think they should do is get more involved with the rugby clubs, because rugby clubs generally have got a better class of person who've got more money to spend, and it'd be easier to sell more expensive tickets, table tickets, and ringside. It's just a thought.
Good point.
Good shout out, Dave.
I did that, Dave. I beat you to that. I've done that a few years ago.
Did it work?
It did until the show got called off.
Who was yours? Exeter?
Yeah, I went to Exeter Chiefs when they were still in the Premiership, but they weren't like winning the Premiership, but it was when I had a good winning record. I was still winning, and I was still training in Leeds, actually. I was still training with Warrington, and I got offered a WBU world title at super bantamweight. And I agreed it, and I was fighting some guy from Ghana. And I took the fight, and that was my promotion. I went down to Exeter Chiefs and went on the pitch with all the players. I still got all the photos.
Yeah.
They sent me the WBU world title, so I had the belt there, and we had photos with the belt and the team and all that lot. And yeah, it went mad and took off. But then Exeter Chiefs are nowhere near as big then as they are now. Like, if it was to happen now, it would be absolutely monstrous because they're the biggest team in the league, the 2-time champions and whatnot. So yeah. But no, rugby, yeah, like you say, rugby, I've got people who go to rugby generally have got, it's a more respectful sport, isn't it? Football's full of thugs and idiots and, you know, just ridiculous. But boxing
Only
and rugby
Burnley
have got,
fans.
well, you can't say that,
disagree with them. I can't disagree.
But it doesn't necessarily have to be a big, you know, it could be a cricket club, or it could be just something different. You know, Surrey, Middlesex in London, there's something different.
Yeah, good shot.
Right, are you recording again? Right, I'm going to chuck it out. Who's got a boxing topic they want to discuss?
Me,
Go on.
the importance of the jab.
I saw your tweet about this earlier.
Yeah, and it's been massively the last couple of weeks, but this weekend was the icing on the cake for me, to be honest. And it's very, very underrated, underused, and underappreciated. It's ridiculous. The jab is the most important punch in boxing, and it doesn't get taught enough, doesn't get used enough, varied up enough.
Jamie, can I ask a question about that?
Of course you can.
Who do you think is underrated by? Trainers, boxers, or fans? Because as a fan, I actually think it's one of the best punches you can throw. So if it's underrated by a trainer, it's never going to get filtered down to the boxer.
I have to interject here as well. I agree. I don't think it's underrated. I just don't think a lot of people know how to bloody teach it. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look flashy on the Instagram video, so a lot of people don't use it. You know what I mean?
It's probably not appreciated by Tunde.
I'm gonna butt in there and say that what you've just said, Kev, basically it's a nail on the head. If it's not taught, it's obviously unappreciated, because as a coach, if you appreciate something, you teach your fighter how to do it because you know it's going to benefit him. Therefore, if they're not teaching it, it's underappreciated massively. And I think that it's such a basic punch. And when you go from being a fighter to being a trainer, it reawakens all the stuff you taught when you were a child, going all the way through the basic little bits, and you become a better fighter by being a coach, because you go over all these old things and you remember the stuff that you may have neglected over the years. And I've spent the whole session tonight with my lads. All they've done tonight is jab. And I said to them, look, this is because of the weekend. Did you all watch your boxing? A few of them give me no. So I said, right, you professional fighters, start watching boxing. And then I just made them jab, and we discussed it, ideas as to how it can be used, how it should be used, what it's about, how important the jab is, how it can get you in trouble, out of trouble. It's ridiculous.
Jamie, do you think more shadow boxing and less pads?
Again, shadow boxing's hard, isn't it? Because it's easy to do shadow boxing and make mistakes, and then you could develop bad habits. Now, if you're doing shadow boxing,
same as the heavy bag. A heavy bag is so unforgiving. A heavy bag, it's so forgiving in terms of you can throw a crap shot on a heavy bag and it just sounds all right and stuff like that. And you get a lot of people just spend time on the heavy bag just throwing shots that then those bad habits bleed into fighters. But yeah, I agree.
That's why it's important as a trainer. Like tonight, when I had the lads on the bags and stuff, I'm walking around the gym and I'm looking at each of them individually, and every fight is different. Everybody's got different attributes, and everybody's good at something. Might be perfect for him, but it don't work for him. And it's my job as a trainer to make sure that I'm developing the right things for each fighter.
Do you fear, Jamie, you said you've spent a whole session tonight working on a jab for your boxers.
Just a jab, yeah.
What's that, an hour, 2 hours?
Hour and a half, we're in the gym tonight, yeah.
Do you fear because people need to be mentally stimulated. And is there a risk that if you just work on one shot for an hour and a half, you lose their interest, their technique?
Yeah, of course. And my way of stopping that happening is, okay, I would let them they're using both hands. They're throwing all sorts of shots. But before the start of every round and at the end of every round, I'm saying to them, right, this is going to be like a normal round we do on the bag. So I've got like a set amount of drills we do on the bags. And I said, this is going to be the same drill as normal, but I want you to use your brain. This is prior to the round. Think about the jab. I want you to imagine that bag has got arms and it's moving, it's in front of you. You need to imagine that that's a man. And that's the way your imagination creates gaps for you to put shots and you'll develop as a fighter. And,
Will, who's got the favourite jab out of all the boxers you've watched?
Without a shadow of a doubt, George Groves. I think his jab was absolutely exceptional and world class. Absolute world class jab.
I'd have to agree. I would say Groves as well. I loved watching Groves, and not just like say he did a bit of everything with it. Sometimes he'd beat you up with it. Sometimes he'd just keep you off. And I think back to the Eubank fight particularly, and it was he just couldn't get past the jab, and when he did, he tied him up, and then it was a reset, and he just butchered him with a jab. And I completely agree. I loved George Groves. Loved it.
Lee, he's on mute.
No, I would actually probably say I agree with that, George Groves. And I generally think it's just an underrated punch. I couldn't probably, a jab's a jab at the end of the day. As long as it's executed correctly, it doesn't really matter who it comes from. It's an underrated thing.
Dave, what about yours? Yours is going to be some obscure 1960s Welsh boxer, isn't it?
No, I didn't realise how good George Groves' jab was until I was sitting ringside. And, in modern day fighting, of boxing. But, and obviously Lennox Lewis and Larry Holmes.
That's what I was going to say, Lennox Lewis. He had a great jab.
Steve?
I was going to say Larry Holmes, but because I thought he had an exceptional jab. But I think you've got to put up Lyndon Arthur with them because he's just done it with one hand. He's not. These other people have been jabbing when they've had two hands. He's gone and beaten a world title challenger with just the jab and nothing else. That's an exceptional performance. It was only in the last round he got caught, wasn't it? That was an exceptional jab. An exceptional jab.
And then that again goes to show how important the jab is. Somebody who's boxed at borderline world level has just been beat with a jab. Now that in itself reiterates how important the jab is, or how important it certainly can be. It's the most important.
Who's yours?
I'm going to say
Joe Joyce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's so many. There's so many. It is such a excellent tool if used correctly. Jamie's got a point, and you picked on it, Martin, as well, in terms of that. I think sometimes people come away from it because they're fearful of the industry's is rife with coaches trying to nick fighters off of other coaches. That's a problem because there's no contract between coaches. That happens an awful lot. So what happens if you're not keeping the fighter stimulated? They can do that. But I agree with Jamie. I think you should drill it. It's like free kicks. If you want to be good at free kicks, you've got to take free kicks. If you want to be good at a jab, you've got to do the jab. If it's fucking boring, it's boring. But it's such an important.
No, I agree. And interestingly, I remember seeing a documentary about 5-6 years ago with Pat Barrett at the Colliers of Moston, and he was drumming it into those boys. Technique, jab. And, he's not a man to be argued with, I don't think.
Do you think people who have had a longer spell in the amateurs tend to have a better jab rather than people who turn pro?
No, they don't.
I do.
No, that's not. Well, for example, sometimes being in the amateurs too long and at a high level hinders you more than anything, because when you turn professional, it's a completely different game. Look at some of the best amateurs we've ever had. Thomas Stalker, captained at the Olympics. Shit pro. Didn't do nothing.
Yeah, but I agree with that.
Frankie
You can
Gavin.
say things, but net, if you're going to have more, if you're going to have 50 amateurs and 50 unlicensed kids come in, I guarantee a higher percentage of the 50 amateurs will have a better jab than the 50%.
Is that because it's a point scoring throw rather than a knockout?
But then I
just
also
more the
feel-
training, just more training. I think, Lee. I think amateurs are schooled a little bit more better. I think it's than some of the white collar. That being said, not saying you can't get decent fights from the unlicensed because you can, but I just think they're schooled more. Amateurs tend to start younger, so obviously you tend to have them through the younger thing, so it's drilled more. But there are obviously exceptions, as Jamie said. But that's my opinion anyway. That's what I think.
Can I throw in another boxer no one's mentioned? Vladimir.
Vladimir Klitschko.
Yeah, his jab was sensational.
Yeah, he had a good jab.
Yeah, but so was his grab as well.
Yeah, but you know, he
but
brought them together.
Yeah,
So is his bank balance.
Yeah. And his misses.
grab. Yeah, the best grab in history.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a good jab, but again, it's one of them things, isn't it? It's the left as an orthodox boxer, and really as a southpaw, but as an orthodox boxer, your left hand should be like a Swiss Army knife. You should be able to use it in so many different ways. It should be so versatile. It should be your right hand is what you want to punch the Oldham with. The left hand should be able to do everything but different angles. It should do everything. It should be the best hand you've got. Should be your front hand.
Right,
Yeah,
I want to
just
come on
on
to a
that-
different subject
sorry.
now. Oh, sorry, go on, James.
No, I was just going to say, if obviously talking about the jab then, and obviously you've obviously been a fighter, you're training. What would you have said to Yard in the corner then to help get past that jab?
To get past
Arthur's jab.
Arthur's jab.
Yeah.
Move
What
his
would you
head.
have done different?
Move his head. To be honest, straight away, I'd have completely changed him from the off. You watch any Anthony Yard fight, how often does he throw a jab in different variations? Touch with it, then sting it in, jab to the body. He's got that Floyd Mayweather shoulder roll, and 9 times out of 10, he knows that his name, Anthony Yard, what he's been and where he's been and what he's done, scares fighters into submission already. They don't want to let their hands go because of the fear of the power. So he can walk people down with that silly shoulder roll and let bombs go, and 9 times out of 10 get the job done. But Lyndon Arthur didn't let that happen. Lyndon Arthur let him walk onto his jab, and he kept peppering him with the jab, changing his angle, changing his distance, changing his range, and Thingy didn't have an answer for it. Yard he's puzzled, and Tundi, he doesn't know whether it's New York, New Year, or New Potatoes. He knows nothing about boxing, so what's he going to do?
I think from my perspective, with regards to Yard and his shoulder roll, I think Martin alluded to it the last fight talk video. Is Yard, he kind of plants his foot a split second before he throws the punch, so you can almost see it coming.
I was watching Yard's feet, actually. I was watching the fight, and I was watching his feet. And the whole time, Anthony Yard's pretty much flat-footed, both feet, front and back foot. You've got toe and heel flat to the floor, which that limits your power. It limits your movement. It limits your rotation on your hips. That limits a lot as a fighter. And I was watching, and he's stepping forward, and he's toe and heeling at times, which as an amateur, when you're a kid, you are trained, do not toe and heel. And by toe and heel, I mean where you're putting your foot down heel first and it's rolling onto the toe. And you're taught not to do that from a young age, and he's doing it the whole time. And Tundi didn't give him any advice at all, other than lions are in the camp.
It almost felt to me like they hadn't prepared for Lyndon Arthur.
Well, they thought they were going to bash him up, didn't they? Is what they
They
thought.
prepared for the TV show.
Well, they prepared for the same fighter that they prepare for every time. That's going to be afraid of who Anthony Yard is and what he's done, so they can walk into range, experiencing very little on the way in, and just bomb him out.
Yeah, you'd love to know. You'd love to know what difference there was. What difference there was in preparation between the Dex Spellman fight and the Lyndon Arthur fight?
None.
Very little. I don't reckon his preparation for a fight has changed since him and Tundi have been together. I think they do the same thing all the time, because I haven't seen Yard progress. He's been the same fighter now as he was when you first seen him on the scene with Tundi. He's not progressed. He's just kept doing what he's doing and kept bowling people over. And don't get me wrong, he's a talented fighter, and he could be very, very good. Put into the hands of a coach who understands the game and can do right for him. He's with a nugget. He's an absolute, all this fake laugh and sort yourself out, mate.
Right, I'm going to change the subject because I know Will's got to go soon and I want to involve him in this one. So, as we've got Kev, who's a trainer, he's been a promoter, Steve, who's a manager, promoter, Dave, who works, behind the scenes, Jamie, who's everything, fighter, trainer, and then we've got me and Lee and James, who are fans. What right do we as fans have to criticise shit boxers?
Every right, because we pay for it, ultimately.
Jamie's not impressed.
No. I think everybody's opinions are like arseholes. Everyone's got one. Simple as that. So everybody's going to have an opinion. And that's not just in boxing, that's in life. Everybody's going to have opinions on different things. Now, they're free to express them. Of course they are. And as a fighter, I mean, I've boxed and been beat on Sky, and I've had people express their opinion. And what are you going to do about it? You just get on with it. If you let it bother you, then you'll beat yourself up about it for the rest of your life. So of course they're entitled. They pay to watch these fights, and us as fighters need fans. You as promoters need fans. We need fans. So you just got to let it ride.
The one thing that pisses me off with the kind of casual fans is when they try and start scoring rounds and scoring fights, because I ain't got a fucking clue at the end of the day, to be perfectly honest. I can have an opinion on who I think looks good, but I'm not sat at the end of I'm not sat in the side of a ring trying to score it, but I don't even get all these casuals going, oh, I think that was an X round to this round on this point because of this. That's where it kind of pisses me off, because they've got no experience in the ring or as judges.
Lee, I think you could do a better job than some of these judges we've got.
I think the funniest thing is that they do when the casuals start saying what he should have done. Yeah, he had a bad round. What he should have done, like they've got loads of experience. They've been there and done it. What he should have done, mate, behave. Come on.
Yeah. Agree.
You say that, right? But we've just sat here, me, Will, James, and queried, should Yard have, for instance, stepped to his right and just tried to avoid that jab more often? Should he have just stepped onto Lyndon Arthur because of the fact that Lyndon Arthur clearly wasn't throwing his right hand? None of us have boxed professionally yet would be able to sit and watch that Saturday night and observe and probably come up with a separate game plan that a professional coach and a professional boxer never came up with.
Yeah, but they've got an opinion as well, haven't they? Because you're voicing your opinion, and their opinion is, what the fuck do you know? Shut up.
Yeah.
So
I think, Martin,
that's their opinion.
What you've just said, Martin, based on stepping right or closing down Lyndon Arthur to reduce the length of that jab, I think you should get yourself a cap, turn it backwards, and take Tunde's job.
Say how it is.
Lions in the camp. Lions in the camp. You know more than Tunde. He's done a better job there than Tunde. Fucking hell. He'd have won a couple of rounds.
I do think going forward, though, going on about things, Arsene Wenger was a good manager in his time, but he wasn't a footballer of any level. So you do find sometimes it doesn't, people that haven't necessarily done it are still capable. And I think people that haven't done something are still capable of watching something and identifying where the things go wrong. Just because you've done it doesn't mean you're any good at being able to watch it and coach it.
That's true.
Someone like Jamie, who I know he's on here now, but I've always said, I think he'll make one of the best trainers in the country. I think he's going to be a brilliant trainer. But not all boxers will make good trainers. They won't.
That's true. And I've said that because a lot of fighters, for example, Scott Dan from Plymouth, down by me. Now, Scott won the British title. He fought Howard Eastman, all this. He wasn't a bad fighter. But he was a yes man. He would listen to what his coach said and he would do as he was told. He didn't have the brain capacity to absorb that information and go, right, I'll save that because I might need that in the future. How can I work with somebody? So he'll never be a good trainer, and he's not. He takes keep fit classes and that's it. And there's only the odd few fighters that sponge all the information and try and divulge it the best way they can for others. And that I'm one of them. I was one of them weird little kids that, as a fighter, I would ask a question to you, say Steve. I'd say, Steve, how do I do this? You'd say that, and then if I'm not fully happy with your answer, I'd then go to Kev. Remember your answer. Ask Kev. Find out his answer. Then ask Martin. Get his answer, and then work out what I think's right between the three. That's just the way I was.
Before you go, Will, because I know you're tight for time. On this.
Martin, sorry, can I jump in with a question for the fans, if you don't mind
Go
me
for
asking?
it.
Just to think that
Please.
more beneficial. Say, Will and James and Lee. Obviously, you said about getting more engagement, fan engagement would encourage you to box and stuff like that. What sort of things would you looking for? So obviously, we're always looking to engage with fans more. But when you say you want more engagement, what sort of things would attract you to it? What sort of things would make you be more interested? Like in your ideal world, when everyone's competing for your attention on Instagram and stuff, what sort of more things as a boxing fan would you like to see from a promoter or et cetera, et cetera?
I think on this one, for me,
I'll go.
Sorry,
I'll go first if that's okay, and then I need to jump off. I just think more engagement. If I always like to empathise in these kind of situations, and if I was a fighter trying to make my name, I'd be jumping on social media. I'd be offering 2 free tickets if you retweet, X-tweet, and just trying to do more. If you look at the current society of social media celebrities and influencers, they make a killing off the back of just being able to self-promote. And there just needs to be a lot more of that, whether it's going into the communities, whether it's going even into businesses and offering a free one-on-one training session, just doing more. You just have to put yourself out there. And
nutritional advice for staff.
Sorry?
Nutritional advice for staff.
100%, whichever way you want to phrase it. Absolutely. I mean, wherever you live, there's going to be businesses that you can tap into. But you have to be offering something, whether it's free tickets, whether it's free training, and as you said, Martin, just free advice.
Can I jump into there?
On that note, guys, I need to shoot off, but it's been a pleasure speaking to you all, and cheers for having me on.
Will,
Will,
before you go, Will, I'm offering a KFC on the bench at lunchtime.
I'll take it.
Right.
I'll take it. All right, guys.
Cheers, Will.
See you later.
Go on, Lee. You were saying, go on, mate.
Yeah, I can't remember if it was Chamberlain or Coley last year. They were outside the Stratfield Centre in Westfield, and he was just showing random shoppers videos of the guy that he was going to fight.
It was Umar Sadiq.
Was it Umar Sadiq? Was it Sadiq? Was it?
He was fighting Zach Jelly.
Okay, well then there goes my boxing knowledge out the fucking window, doesn't it? So yeah, literally going around Stratford Centre saying, "Would you fight this guy?" And they were like, "No," and he posted it on social media, and that's got me engaged in him. And I remember that. Obviously, I fucked up the names of the fighters, but I still remember it. And it's that type of involvement, I think, from my perspective.
Did he have his sunglasses on? Bet he did.
I can't remember. I can't even remember his name, so I don't even know what he's wearing.
James, what was you?
I think for me, if I think of the bigger fights, and I think some of my mates as well who are sort of more. I'm not saying I'm a hardcore boxing fan, far from it, but they'd definitely be more in the casual era. You know, if you can either sell them a storyline or some form of beef, whether it's whatever, you know, they buy into that. So can that be diluted down to a smaller level where locally, you know, are the two local lads that are going to fight, are they going to buy into that story? Is there going to be some sort of contrived argument, whatever, just to sell the tickets? Either that, or for me, like when I supported Shane Singleton, very similar to me, young lad, he's a dad, I can relate to him, but a lot of boxing fans aren't going to necessarily see that as a reason to buy a ticket. So, you know, can you create some form, like for example, Joshua's fight this weekend, nobody really cared that it's Pulev, but people are going to tune in because this is the last one before Fury. That sort of thing. That's what I'm not going to buy it, but my friends are talking about it. If Joshua beats Pulev, we'll get Fury. That sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, Sky, there was a Sky advert for it on their show last weekend where 50% of the advert for Joshua Pulev featured Fury.
Because he's, at the end of the day, in my opinion, Tyson Fury is the selling product. So Tyson Fury should be the A side of the fight. He's the one that people care about. He's the one that's done more with regards to well, everything. People are interested in Tyson Fury. He's a character. He's the better boxer, technical boxer. He's a far better boxer.
As fans, you can relate to him more than you can Joshua. As a fan,
I think he shows more of his human side, doesn't he? Like
that's it.
He did those Instagram videos over lockdown with his missus and kids, and you see that there's a bit of chaos. Like his kids were pissing off his missus, and we've all been there, like during lockdown, especially.
Kids are about 9 and they're effing and jeffing.
Yeah, brilliant. We've all done it though, haven't we? And we can all relate to it. You can
empathise with what he was going through, and that you think of him more as a human being than you do Anthony Joshua, who you see as almost robotic. Like
billboard, isn't he?
Buy my links, buy my Lucozade, buy a Range Rover. Look at this watch.
Martin, that comes back to something that we often spoke about, and with Steve as well, in terms of one of the things that in my opinion, not ratting on boxers because obviously they have it hard and sell tickets, but one of the things I think they do wrong on Instagram is constantly just putting up training videos. If you're a pro boxer, I expect you to be training. Like, I want to see more of you getting up at 5 o'clock, going to do scaffolding, and then you're fucking knackered and you're falling asleep on the sofa at 9 o'clock because you've been out. I want to see more than that, than you eating the bag for
exactly my thoughts, Kevin. Like a day in the life or stuff like that. There's nothing more boring than watching somebody doing pads, is there?
All right, boys, calm down. Listen, I'll do a video diary. It's fine.
Talking about Fury Joshua, would you pay 40 or 50 quid pay-per-view for it?
I'd stream it, to be honest.
Stream it on IPTV.
Do you reckon the public will pay 40 to 50 pounds for it?
No, not unless you can guarantee me that Joshua's getting knocked out. Then I'll pay for it.
Yeah, the public will pay that. I think.
Public will pay it. You think it will do big?
Yeah, I think the build-up will be so big, people will get sucked into it, and
I agree.
It'll be huge. It'll be huge.
It's the biggest fight in British boxing history, so people will pay it. Of course, it will.
That's where you'd end up with
if you can get your mates together and watch it, depending when it happens, I think, a few lads will chip in a 10 or whatever. But if we're still in this sort of, the lockdown, whatever it is, would I pay 50 quid at home to watch it? No, absolutely.
No, yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I think
that's fair. Yeah. But then you'll end up, there'll be a different demographic, because like my dad will end up knowing that it's on and he'll pay 50 quid to watch it. And then he'll tell me in the morning, and I'll say, you could have fucking come round. But he'll tell me the next day. But that kind of person who wouldn't buy Joshua Pulev would buy Joshua Fury.
It's a different world in promoting now as well. There's so many things vying for your attention. Years ago, you had 3 channels. Everyone watched the same channels. Everyone see the same advert. Now, because of the diversity of social media and people's interests and channels, it all gets filtered and spread out. So you don't dial into the same huge amount. But something like Fury, Joshua it would cross over those platforms, and it would just pull everyone together like it used to be when it was 3 channels and everyone used to watch Sports Night or whatever it was called.
Kev, I want to go back to your point about boxers just putting videos up of going for a run, doing pads, lifting weights. Like, imagine I started putting up videos on Twitter of me doing Excel. Like, you'd think I'd lost the fucking plot.
I can understand you putting it up, and I can understand little bits of it.
But doing it every day, like,
it's a bigger market for it.
Or 7 minutes of it is like, you know what I mean? In a where we're so quick to swipe through stuff, 7 minutes of pads is the thing. Look, you want to show that you're working hard. I don't think you should stop it altogether, but I don't think the content should be all around you training, because again, you said, that's
can I say the other issue about it as well?
Sure.
Is the amount of boxers who, outside of when they announce they've got a fight and they're trying to sell tickets, outside of that period, you wouldn't know they're boxers.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying that they should overly push the fact they're doing pads and what have you, but how many only take to social media when they're trying to flog a ticket? How many are engaging with the general public? And when I say the general public, I mean their Twitter followers, Instagram followers, outside of that period where they're trying to flog a ticket.
No, absolutely. I think it's things that can work hard on. Look, I think we as promoters and Tim can sometimes help. I think we can advise a bit better than perhaps we do. The document we talked about before, Martin, about the done, you know, we should perhaps roll that out more than we have done in the past. So I think it's, you know, I don't think you put all the blame on the boxers. I do think, you know, there's things we can improve on as well.
James, what's your biggest gripe about boxing? Go.
Cards like this weekend, just like there's too much build up to something that might happen, and you have to tolerate the dross in order to get there. To be honest, that's it. You know, you would like if, for example, I'm trying to think like the best fight on this card, or the one that intrigues me the most, would be Bakoli v Kuzmin. It's not an amazing fight, but I'm thinking, who wins? You know, I don't know who wins, so. Too many, like say Steve were talking earlier, you can look down Bet365, you see the odds and you just think, well, he's going to win, he's going to win, he's going to win. Why would I want to watch that unless I'm, you know, got to buy into a particular boxer and I think I want to watch his journey. Otherwise, I'm not interested.
Exactly true. It's exactly, that's the one we covered earlier. It's the one fight that is the one competitive fight this weekend.
Yeah, and
I
it's
think,
just.
I think you're right. Like, and a prime example of that right now for me is Conor Benn.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that disrespectfully to Conor Benn, because actually he's grown on me hugely as a boxing fan. But, you know, we're ultimately aiming for that Josh Kelly fight. Do we realistically think that is going to be Conor Benn's next fight? No.
You look at someone like a Conor Benn and maybe potentially to an Anthony Yard, someone like that who's been built up to be such a commercial thing. They make, you know, they do numbers or whatever, that they then can't really learn on the job, that they don't potentially do it away from the cameras or on a small old show where they can have a fight where they might look bad, but they'll learn. So if they have that fight on Sky and they look bad and they learn, does their value then dip because they're not the next big thing and knocking everyone
Well,
out?
I think he does learn, doesn't he, Conor, because he's got a much better team around him.
Yeah. But, you know, look at somebody like a Yard. Would he have been better having, you know, a rangy someone with a jab or a southpaw, whatever it is, you know, and learn off the camera. So then when he is on that bigger stage and he's got a problem, he can tap into experience. He didn't look good. Maybe he can get the job done. I don't know. That's just
he'd have been better off having a coach and not just lions and not just lions in the camp, because you can have as many lions in the camp as you want, but it don't teach you how to fight. Now, sparring is an integral part of boxing. You have to do it. He doesn't spar. Tunney doesn't believe in sparring. He doesn't believe in road work. Road work? Are you real? What do you mean he doesn't believe in road work? It's ridiculous. How are you supposed to develop?
I get the impression you don't like Tunde.
I was talking to somebody the other night and
personally, I don't have a problem with him. I don't know the man on a personal level, so I can't say that I don't like him, because I don't like him. I don't not like him. I don't like the way he trains, because he's trying to take a sport that's been around for hundreds of thousands or however many years, and he's trying to change it into something that it simply isn't.
Exactly, he's trying to rewrite the book and it doesn't need rewriting.
Yeah, you can't do that. You cannot expect a fighter to get in the ring. For example, if he doesn't believe in sparring, so you're telling me when Anthony Yard got in that ring last weekend, that was the first time that he exchanged blows with another man in the ring since his previous fight? Because if that is, and that's the way it's gone, how is he supposed to learn? How does he know that things are that he has learned and things have worked? Because everything you do on the pads is timed. He knows the shots that he's throwing. He knows what's coming back at him. So he knows to go 1-2, slip, slip, roll, because Tunde's told him. Lions in the camp.
Lee, what's your biggest gripe about boxing at present?
Eddie Hearn and all his bullshit. Quite frankly, I'm sick and tired of it. I've had enough of it. Every video. I like Coogan as an interviewer until he gets with Eddie Hearn, and then might as well just be sat there sucking each other off, to be perfectly honest with you. It's fucking disgraceful. The bullshit that comes out of that bloke's mouth is unbelievable.
Can I just ask Steve, are we going to have an 18 tag on this conversation?
I'm saying nothing. I'm not. I'm just.
Kev's got the editing job. Dave, what's your biggest frustration in boxing?
British judges. It's got ridiculous. If I had a good foreign fighter, there's no way I'd bring him to Britain. No way. It's getting absolutely ludicrous. And that's it.
What's the worst one in your recent memory?
The worst one I've seen, the worst one, the worst one in the recent history is Raymond Beltran against
Ricky Burns.
Ricky Burns. That was disgraceful.
That Ricky Burns one was the one where he snapped his jaw in about the third round, wasn't it? And then Burns
the
just
one.
covered up for 8-9 rounds.
Yeah, it
and
was
got the win.
disgraceful. They shouldn't have gone to the judge. Well, they should have gone to the police. It was ridiculous. Totally ridiculous. That's my view.
Gone to the police. Excuse me, officer, can you come in here a sec, please? We need serious. Come on.
It's been a robbery.
Steve, what's your biggest frustration in boxing?
Not being able to watch me every weekend.
No, because that's why I want boxing back, so I can watch Jamie every week. I think there's two. I go for two. One, Dave's already mentioned the judging. I just think, I know it's subjective, but you know, and I think this is in all countries. I just don't. I think when boxers give up their lives, you know, for a career, and it's robbed by what can only be an inept decision, I don't think that's right. I think the best fighter should win no matter whose show it's on, and it doesn't happen all the time, or it doesn't happen to some of these judges' scorecards.
Very rarely it happens.
Very rarely happens. I mean, you wouldn't have seen, nobody would have given Lyndon Arthur that 117, 111, would they? So, you know, but you can see why you give it to Anthony Yard. It's just, I don't know why this happens. You never see a really ludicrous decision to the away fighter, do you? You only see a ludicrous decision to the home fighter.
Yeah, because money talks, Steve. That's why money talks. And as a ticket selling fighter, if you're selling 1,000 tickets a show for Eddie Earn, you're a commodity. You're earning him X amount of money. He's not going to let you lose.
But
and the judges know that if they give it a loss, they lose their job.
1 second there's any bribery going on. I don't believe people have given money.
No, I don't reckon there is, no.
So I just don't know why this keeps happening, but it happens in every country, and that's very frustrating. And the second thing is something I reiterate. His managers without a license running around managing fighters, and the border control and everybody else not doing anything about it or stopping things from happening. That is a pet hate, because why are all managers such as Carl Greaves, Steffi Ball, myself, all the other people, we're paying all these licensing fees to keep everything going, and other people are acting as consultants without having a manager's license, without paying the fees, and they're standing in the ring without any license with their fighters, doing interviews outside the ring as the manager when they're not a licensed manager. Because
that's where they're classed as advisors, Steve, rather than managers.
Yeah, but that shouldn't be. They shouldn't be allowed to be in the ring with their fighters. But they're called managers in a certain thing, and the so-called manager doesn't appear because he's not really the manager. The manager's just a figurehead.
Steve, do you know when these fighters get called to Cardiff or get called at the city? You know, when they've done a misdemeanor. Who do they take with them then to represent them?
Well, each one would have a licensed manager, won't they? But it'll be like Steve said, it will just be a manager by name.
They're not self-managed, no?
Have to be their manager. So, for example, I've had hearings with fighters, and they're represented by somebody else. So, for example, Dave, you're a license holder. You could go and represent anybody. So, if Joe Joyce was pulled up before the board, and Sam Jones couldn't go because he's not got a license using Sam Jones, they could say, "Oh, Dave, we'll give you 150 quid. Can you go with Joe Joyce to the hearing?" And you could go.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Even though you're nothing to do with him, because you're represented by a license holder. You don't necessarily at all times have to be represented by a manager. So, look, I understand.
We've got less than a minute, gents.
Okay, so that might hates, and I hope that, but and I don't know, but I understand what the board would say in their defence is we can't do anything about somebody who is not registered or licensed by us. So I understand that position.
Not in their jurisdiction.
Yeah, but it does annoy me.
Right. as Kev's pointed out, we've got no time left. So look, thank you very much, everyone, James and Lee and Jamie and Dave and Kev for coming along, and it's been a pleasure.